You are good to go.
Wow. Oh, hello everyone. Good evening. I'm very excited to be talking to you all in the first batch of artist talks. Um, my name is Asha Iman, and in this artist talk, I will begin by briefly giving a little background about myself and my practice, some of my influences. I'll get into some of my work, and then I will start talking about some of my like what I'm thinking about in the future post grad. I also have a little like speech because I was really trying to figure out how I was going to get all of this in 5 to 10 minutes, but we're going to do it. So let us begin. What is it gonna? Oh, there we go. A little about me. I am an interdisciplinary artist, poet, and music curator, born and raised in North Carolina. I currently reside in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm also a Taurus, April Taurus to be exact. My practice is intuitive and a result of my innate desire to experiment, research, and gather. I use a multitude of mediums as vessels to bring forth the colorful, curated chaos that lives inside my spirit. I abstract and recontextualize the world, cutting and pasting fragments of reality with my imagination, which results in a rebirth of existence through my maximalist eye, my love of color and patterns, and my whimsical viewpoint. And I've shared some pictures of like a Polaroid when I was in my studio senior year, me with one of my wood pieces from when I took intro to wood, and then one of my metal pieces that I proudly made in the metal shop. Woo. Influences. Now, this is only a small fraction of my influences. If I could share all of my influences, it literally would be maybe like an encyclopedia. But I wanted to kind of share um, just a few that really, I guess, are super instrumental to the way that I make. The images that I've shared are the first one right around here is Walter Wick's work with the band Cocteau Twins for their 1993 album For Calendar Cafe. Walter Wick also did the photography for I Spy, which I love. Um, this image right here is of Zandra Rhodes, who was an English designer and her early textile work in the 70s. This image right here is from Natalie de Pasquier. I think that's how I pronounce her name, but it's from the Memphis Group, which was an Italian design coalition from the like 80s. And then this right here is Joan Miro, who I absolutely love. But yeah, I have a lot of different influences. My work now, because I have so many influences, it kind of makes sense to me that I work in a lot of different mediums. And for time purposes, or I didn't put all that I do, but I did want to say that I work in performance. I've worked in poetry, whether it be performance poetry or page poetry or spoken word poetry or page poetry, bricolage, assemblage. I've done digital work and I've also done sound art. But let's get into my work. I've been working in my sketchbook for a while. This are some scans from the first sketchbook that I completely finished while I was when I first came to MICA. I love having a sketchbook practice just because I don't necessarily feel too, I guess, like I just don't feel like I need to make like an aesthetically pleasing, shareable, I guess, sketchbook. Because I know that there are a lot of people who really are like making sketchbooks and they're like full on art pieces. But I don't know. I feel like it just makes my mind move and I have a different sketchbooks in different sizes and stuff. So some scans. New mediums. These are some new mediums that I have been working on in the past few years. I've done some glass fusing. I've done some felting, which is both needle and wet. And I've also done paper making, which I started doing when I went to Penland School of Craft last summer, which was amazing. Sculpture and video work. This is woodworking. This is a piece that I did called Come Into My Music Library. Not pictured, I made 10 mix CDs and I curated 10 different songs, so in total 100 songs. Let's see, this one, this piece is called Tangled Saccharine Loops of Self from 2023. And then this is a still from my short film, Inscapes, A Search for the Glitter and the Glow. A lot of my video work is not narrative, but still love narrative work. But yeah, I also did like a little, if you want to watch it, I linked it. So wet and dry mediums. On the left hand, this piece right here is with colored pencil on frosted mylar. And then this piece right here is gouache on cold press paper. Portraits. This was kind of my dive into figurative drawing. These first three, the Junie, Zahara, and Soraya, were finals for my life drawing class, and I hated life drawing, but I love doing these ones. And I will continue to do portraits kind of like this because it just tickles my brain and lets me kind of, I guess, dive more into the world building that I love and kind of making characters and giving them backstory. And I also made playlists for them, so they're all linked on each of the drawings, so you can click on those as well. Gathered through vivid planes and odyssey of her inner workings is kind of the cornerstone of my thesis that I had and my solo show that I had this year called Clusters of Curiosities. And I feel like it really is encapsulates the theme of Clusters of Curiosities, which was an amalgamation of a lot of different things, whether it be ephemera or it's midnight discoveries and stuff. And so it's my biggest piece. It's 38 by 42. It's mixed media on canvas. Here are some photos of it from my solo show, Clusters of Curiosities. Yay! And some close-ups. Yay! There's a little picture of me on some 100-year-old sheet music that I found at a thrift store that I cut up. Music curation. I definitely believe in the art and science of music curation. And as someone who grew up in a musical household and was raised by a musician, music has always been my first love. So I shared an image of my poster that I made for Everything But the Record Store, which was my second radio show that I had at Micah. And also my most liked playlist that I have on Spotify, which is based off of like 70s horror and surreal films and soundtracks that I really love. And also a little picture of me in the radio. But I also linked the playlist and also the master playlist for Everything But the Record Store. What will she do next? The answer is a multitude of different things. I want to continue, I guess, doing research and gathering and being curious with my art practice. I've been applying for different opportunities. I just sent an application in for Penland's core fellowship, and also there is a residency in Charlotte called Goodyear Arts, and they give like a 6-week residency and also like have a show at the end. So I'd like to do that because I have been a part of that kind of Goodyear community since I was like a teenager. So full circle. Strengthen in mediums that I already work in and explore in mediums such as like ceramics and jewelry making and fibers and stuff. And I guess dream big, even though it can feel scary. Where to find me? You can contact me. Email, Instagram, Arena, Pinterest, Spotify, Tumblr, Vimeo. My website is still in the works, and also a Substack. But in conclusion, I do it all for her. And I didn't know this, but this picture was when I was 5. So this is 20 years ago. Here we are now. So thank you so much for listening to my artist talk. Yay!
Thank you so much, Asha. Thank you. That was awesome. You can, if you want to keep this slide up, keep this slide up. We'll do a few questions. If anyone wants to raise their hand or just unmute to ask a question, feel free to also type it in the chat if you would like. Yeah.
I have a question. Since you work in so many different mediums,
Yes.
and you have such a particular style that I feel like translates really well across mediums, I was wondering if there's a material where you feel like you are able to fully express that intuitive nature of your art. Because I know with some craft processes, there's a lot of pre-planning and it's really hard to be intuitive as someone who's a ceramicist.
Yeah.
There's a lot of steps they have to plan for. And so I was wondering how you kind of negotiate with that within your use of material.
I would say that the medium that I think I work that with my like intuitiveness is usually like drawing, and also film to some degree. I think because I don't necessarily do a lot of narrative based work, it's easy kind of for me to kind of have an idea of some sorts or think like, oh, this could be cool, and then just kind of like build onto that, which most of my narrative work is of me having kind of some type of idea and trying to execute it in some sort of way. Um, but I think those are probably like the main ones that have really been like I feel most comfortable in. I think also with poetry too. I think before when I was like younger, I had to do a lot of like poetry that was more like political in some sort of way. And not saying that like I like on a lot of people who still do that, but um it just isn't something that I find that I can really like do all that much. And a lot of my poetry now is more kind of like free form. And so I find more I guess connection with that as well. I wanted to share a few of those things, but for time purposes. But if somebody wants to see any of the poetry, you know.
Will you be putting your poetry on your Substack?
Yes.
Yay! I'm so excited to read your stuff on Substack. And I really love that you showed all of the people the artists and just things that inspire you. And you're so undefined by medium that it kind of lets you know, all of the art materials be your oyster. And I really hope that Penland recognizes that as craft itself. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. And this presentation was so well put together.
I think the night that we were like, our artist talks are happening like in 2 weeks, I was like, all right, I love making a presentation, so let's go.
Hey, um, sorry I'm late. I'm in the middle of install, and I was like, oh shit, the call's happening, and wanted to make it in for the last little bit. What I saw of that last little bit of the artist talk was really lovely. And I think I saw that you linked your presentation, so I'm gonna go back and look at that later. But um, yeah, I really like the question that Mantis asked, in terms of like tapping into intuition, because I feel like that's something that you do really well. That I know that like for myself, like that's something that can be difficult. And I was having this conversation with someone who graduated from the IS department before, about how we both find it really hard to sketch in sculpture. And I'm kind of curious for you, like whenever you've dipped your toes into sculpture, like how do you feel like you're able to sketch?
Ooh, that's a good question because all of the sketches for most of my sculpture stuff was not the thing that became. So like this piece right here, it looked completely different from the proposal that I had. And then I think I put in my proposal, I was like, now I put this sketch in here, but it's not gonna look like this probably. So I just like I think like with sketching certain things, it is like I think with this one, with my woodworking piece, I think I had kind of like some type of idea, but I didn't have like, oh, I'm going to have all of these different patterns and stuff on here. I think I just kind of had two pieces of wood. I was like, oh, I'll cut it in the middle or something. And then I drew how it might look. And then I was like, sure. And then it kind of came to me to put the other stuff on there. And I was like, okay, sure. So sketching for sculpture is something that, I mean, maybe I'll do a little bit more of in the future if I have like a, plan of some sorts, like I'm going to do this. But for right now, the sketching is kind of like, it's like I'll sketch, but will it look like that? No.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm kind of similar in the sense of like, it's kind of like building that language. But I guess I'm kind of thinking about like sketching also not just being limited to like drawing, but like when you're testing an idea in some sort of form, like trying to get a grasp of it. And I feel like when I saw you doing like a lot of your metal pieces, like I was kind of thinking about that as a way of like kind of intuitively following like plasma cutting those shapes and then just seeing the assemblages. Like to me, I'm like that's sketching in terms of like testing out various like variations of like what could be a final form.
Oh, I miss the plasma cutter. I would freehand on that thing so much and then have all these different shapes and be like, okay, this, maybe this, and maybe this. But yeah, I would love to plasma cut more in the future.
Yeah, maybe at a fellowship.
Maybe at a finish. This will be our last question. Marissa asked in the chat, how do you feel your practice changes when you work digitally versus with more analog mediums? Or do they not change much?
I will say that to some degree it doesn't like change all that much. Granted, all of my like digital work, except for maybe like because I feel as though like the posters that I did for my radio show were I guess are like digital to some degree. I mean, yeah, but I feel like it kind of is me just kind of fooling around on there and then just kind of like pressing different buttons and being like, I like this. Or and then like I guess seeing if I can have that same kind of pattern or form and then I can go into Kid Picks and kind of like change the things on there so that the like colorway is different. And then I have just like different kind of variations of the same pattern but in different I guess like colors and stuff like that. So yeah, not necessarily anything like too different than what I usually do with like maybe like my drawings or like my paintings and stuff or my mixed media work.
Thank you. Well, we'll do two more questions if that's okay. I missed that Matilda put one in the chat as well. They said, maybe I tapped out for 2 seconds, but are all your pieces individual but exist within the same world? Or is there a particular series of works that you made with the same theme, or is that too restrictive?
I like to say that a lot of my work lives in the same kind of universe to some degree. Like although it's not shown in here, I've done like, video work that is like a little bit darker and is like black and white, or I've done poetry that has like themes about like the erotic and kind of like desire and stuff like that, and those can kind of seem a little bit different than like, I don't know, my portraits, but I kind of feel like they're all in some sort of fictitious universe that lives inside of myself that I don't know, is still like a part of me, but they're all like different, I guess, in like different areas and stuff. So they're different, but they're still kind of like very much like me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think that's kind of with like my clusters of curiosities where I was pulling from stuff that was from both the tangible world and like a fictional world, because I like to believe that I have many different worlds living within myself, and that world can be, you know, like whimsical and la 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 and stuff, but it also could be, you know, like dark and heavy and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yes.
Ruth, do you want to ask
Yeah.
your question and then?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just curious about like what does pattern like mean to you? Because when I see this work, obviously the word pattern comes and the different medium of work that you work, because pattern to me has like a very positive, optimistic kind of feeling when I see this work, because it feels like it's endless and just can continue be building on. So I'm just curious about like your understanding and relationship to patterns.
I think that I don't know if I have like the word for it, but it's like a feeling, like a like there's some sort of like happy or just like intriguing feeling whenever I see certain patterns. And I think whenever I have like a folder full of just like patterns that I see kind of like within like my world. Like if I go to like an antique mall and I see like a dress and I'm like, oh, this is a nice pattern. Might not buy this dress, but like the pattern. And I think there's something about like I guess, being able to like cover like a lot of different things with patterns. I don't know. Maybe it's something I need to like delve more into, because I don't know. I love patterns a lot. Um, but it just kind of feels like something that is just like it just makes sense that I like patterns for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the video, well, I haven't seen the video, but it feels like you then now be like a linear in a frame type of pattern in that way. So I just like see so much pattern. So I'm just really curious about like the significance of patterns to you. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Let's give another round of tomatoes and applause
Woohoo!
for Asha.
Thank y'all for listening.
Woo! Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording.